Hello all. So in this lecture, we will see about a nested if statement. So in the last lecture, we have seen if statement. Then after that, we have seen if else statement, and we have also seen else if ladder. So in this, we will see about nested if statement. So this was the if statement we have seen. So in the if statement, we will check the condition. So if the condition is true, then the statements or set of statements will be executed, and it will return to the next statement after the braces. And if the condition is false, then it will not execute anything. It will execute out the statement after the brace. Then we have seen if else statement. So if we have a condition, if it is true, if that condition is true, then we will execute a set of statements, and it will return to the program after the braces. And if the condition is false, then another set of statements can be executed in this if else statement. Okay, after that it will return to the program. So this was if else statement. Then we have also seen if else statement. So here we will check for some condition. In the if statement, we will check for condition, and if that condition is true, then a set of statements will be executed, and it will return to the thing after the if statement. The brace after the brace, if there is some statement, those statements will be executed. Then if the condition is false here, so if the condition is false here, then what it does is it will check for another condition. In the else if statement, there will be some condition. And if that condition is true, then we will execute some set of statements, and it will return to the thing after the if statement. Okay. And if again this condition is false, then either we can execute another else if statement. We will check for another condition, or we can go for an else statement, and in that else statement we will execute another set of conditions. We can either go to another condition, we will check for another condition. So any number of conditions can be checked in the if else. So we have already seen that grading program. So we have given grades from A to F. So we will check all those conditions in the else if like that. So that is why it is known as else if ladder. Okay. So this is a if else, or we can call it as else if ladder. So this can be drawn in a different manner like this also. We will check for condition 1. If it is true, then that statement will be executed. If it is false, then we will check for another else if condition. If it is false, we will check for another else if condition. Like that, we can go to any number of conditions, and finally there can be an else body. If that else body is not there, then after that it will go to the statement after the below it. Okay, so these are all true. So this is the else if thing. Okay, if else if else. Now next we have the nested if statement. Nested if statement. So in this nested if statement, what we do is we have a Boolean expression we check. So nesting means inside an if there will be another if statement. So we can include a if statement inside a else statement, or inside else if we can include another if statement. So then it is known as nested if statement. So here we have a Boolean expression, and if this is true, whatever inside the braces will be executed. So executes when the Boolean expression 1 is true. So everything inside the body will be executed, and inside this Boolean if statement, we are including another if statement. So we have Boolean expression 2. So we will check again for another condition if. So that is why it is known as nested if. So we are including a if statement inside a if statement. So if this Boolean expression is true, then we will execute this set of statements. If it is false, then it will come out to the next statement. If there is some statement after this brace, it will be executed. If there is nothing, then it will come out of this loop. So we can do any number of nesting. So we can include else statement, we can include else if, everything is possible. I will show another variation of this nested if. So here if Boolean expression will be checked, if it is true, it will go inside the body. If it is false, then it can go to the next else if. So this is the else if. So this is the opening brace of this and closing brace of this. So after, if this is false, then it will go to this else if statement. and it will check for this boolean expression. Okay, if it is true, it will go inside this and execute, and if it is false, then it will go to the else. So it is a else if ladder we have already seen, but in this if statement, if it is true, it will go inside this expression. So this will be executed when the boolean expression 1 is true. Here inside this if statement we are checking for another condition. So if boolean expression is true, so if it is true, it will go to the body. If it is false, we can go to another else here. Okay, so it is inside this if statement. So all these statements will be executed only if this boolean expression 1 is true. So if it is true, then it will go here. It will check for this condition. If it is true again, it can go to this loop. Inside this, we can, if you want, you can include another if statement also, but it is not good to do this nesting too deeply. Maximum we should do three nesting and all. So if inside this if, yeah, if you want, you can include one more if. It is better to limit that nesting up to 3 levels only. It will be very difficult to understand the program if you are doing too much nesting. Okay, so if, then we can include another if, and if it is true, it is executed. If this statement goes false, then the else part will be executed. Here we can include this. I have shortened like this. You can include any number of statements inside this, or if you want, you can include an else if statement here itself. Then you can check for another condition. After that, you can include another else if. So there is, we can include a else if ladder inside this. So everything is possible. Okay, so when you include all those things, then the program becomes much more complicated. Okay, so if this statement is false, we can have this, we can try for this else if statement, boolean expression tree. If it is true, then this statement will be executed and it will come out. So like that, it will go on executing. So this is known as nested if statement. So this is a general syntax for nested if statement. So any number of nesting is possible. Okay, so this is how it works. So it will check for this condition. It is similar to the if else if loop statement. So if the condition is true, so if the condition is true, here what it does is it again checks for another condition. It can check for another condition. So this is not a general syntax. We cannot call this a general flowchart, because we can include any number of conditions, any number of statements. So if that condition is true, we can check for another condition. So if that statement is true, even inside that we can check for another condition, or we can include a set of statements. Okay, so if it is so, if we have only one nesting, if we want to include another condition, we can draw a diamond here. Then it is checking of another condition. So like that, it's also possible. Then all those statements will be executed, and it will return to the thing after the braces, the whole brace. And if the condition is false, in this case, we can execute another condition else if statement. If you want, you can include another else if statement, or you can go execute some statements and will can return to the program. And if the condition here, the first if condition is false, we can execute a statement, or you can include an else if statement also. We can make a diamond here also, and finally you can return this program. So this is not, we cannot say this flowchart is a general diagram, because we can include any number of conditions, any number of nesting is possible. So you can include another condition, like that you can include another condition here, or you can include a condition here. So anything can be included. Then it is known as a nested if statement. Okay. So we will see some examples. So I have already some programs. I have already written some programs here. So I will show it 18, 19. Okay. So this is an example program. So here this we have this is an actual program. When you write this program, it is better to write this comments and all. So that's why I have shown this program. So you are mentioning this is a comment. So it is local variable definition. So it is now understandable. It is clear what the program is. So these are all local variables. So we have declared A and B, and then we have assigned two values. For A it is 100, and for B it is 200. then we are checking this boolean condition. So we are including this comment. Okay, it is not mandatory you should include this comments. It is better if you include this comment, so it will be it will be readable for other people who are reading or seeing this program. So we are checking for the first condition, if a equal to 100. So this condition is true because we have given a as 100. So since this is true, it will go inside this brace. So if condition is true, then check the following. Again, we are checking if b equal to 200. So this is nesting. So inside this if, we are including another statement. So since this condition is true, it will go to this if statement. Again, it will check for another condition. So b equal to 200. So it is 200. So it is true. Again, it will go inside this brace and it will print this thing. Print value of a is 100 and b is 200 will be printed. After executing this, this will go after the brace. So this is the closing brace of this if statement. And after that, we have a closing brace for this if statement. Then we will execute this statement, printf. So after that, value of a is printed and printf value of b is printed. So that's all about this program. So in this way, we can include this nesting. So we have not included any else statement or else if statement. So if you want, if this condition is false, you can include other else statement or else if statement or else if ladder. Anything is possible. Similarly for here also, if b equal to 200, you can include other else statement, else if, anything can be included. So it is just to show this nesting. Okay, we will run this program. GCC 19 nested if dot. Okay, now dot slash a dot out. So you can see that all those statements. So inside the if second boolean expression, we have this thing, value of a is 100 and b is 200 will be executed. And finally, after the if statement, we have two printf statements. Those statements will also be printed. So that is so this is an example for if else, a nested if statement. Now I will show one more program for this nested if. Let me check which is that program. I have already got that program. If I have one more else if is there, so I'll check this if else if. So this is actually an else if program. I'm going to modify this program. So this is a else if ladder program. So it is actually we are checking two integers whether they are equal, smaller or larger using the else if ladder. Okay. I'm going to use the else if ladder first. So this thing we have studied in the previous lecture. Okay, so I'm going to use the same thing to check whether it is whether two integers are equal, smaller or larger. So what I am going to do is here this is the main program. Inside I am declaring two variables, number 1 and number 2. Now I am asking the user to enter two numbers and I am using the scanf statement %d ampersand number 1 comma ampersand number 2. So whatever the user enters, the first number will be stored in number 1. So in the address location of number 1, you can store the first number, and in the address location of number 2, you will store the second number. Now we are using the if else. We are going to check whether the number are equal, smaller or larger. So this is a else if ladder program. So this is not nested if. So this is a else if ladder program. So here we will check whether in the first condition we will check whether both the numbers are equal. So if it is so, we will print that the %d and %d are equal. So %d will be replaced by number 1 and %d will be replaced by number 2. So whatever we enter, if we are entering 5 and 5, then 5 equal to 5, it is true. Then 5 and 5 are equal will be printed. Then we won't execute all these things. Then the last return 0 statement will be executed. Now if we are entering different numbers, so if we are entering first number as 7 and second number as 5, then this condition is false. Then what happens? We have an else if statement. So we will check whether 7 greater than 5. So it is true. So what happens? We will print this statement. So 7 is greater than 5. So %d and %d will be replaced by number 1 and number 2. Okay. So that will be printed. Now if we are entering 5 and 7, so number 1 is 5 and number 2 is 7, then this condition is also false. So this is false, then this is also false, then the else part will be executed. So this will be printed. So number 1 is 5 is less than 7 will be printed. So we will see this program. This is actually else if ladder. Okay. Now I'll run this program, compile it, gcc elsif dot c, now dot slash a dot out. So you can enter any number. So I am going to enter 5 and 5. Now 5 and 5 are equal will be printed. Now I am going to enter 7 and 5. Now 7 is greater than 5 will be printed. Okay. Now I'll enter one more number, 5 and 7. Now 5 is less than 7 will be printed. So this is the program. So this is using nested if. Now I am going to change it. So I am going to change this program so that it becomes a nested if statement. So I can change it here. So what I am going to do is I am going to check two conditions here. Instead of using equal to, I am going to check two conditions here. So I'll be checking greater than or equal to. Now I am going to check greater than or equal to condition here. So the first condition, I'm not changing anything here. Two numbers will be input, and after that I'm going to check whether number 1 greater than number 2. Okay, so I'm going to change the program. Number 1 greater than or equal to number 2 is included here now. Okay, so what should be done? So if number 1 greater than or equal to number 2, then we have to check for two conditions. So I will check whether if, so I am going to initially check inside the if statement, I am going to nest it. I am going to check whether number 1, if number 1 greater than number 2. So I have checked two conditions, greater than or equal to. So all the numbers which are greater than or equal to will come inside this if statement. Now I am again going to make it a little more. I am going to check only whether number 1 greater than number 2. So if it is so, what I have to do, I have to print, what I have to print, I have to print f, I have to print this statement actually. If number 1 is greater than number 2, actually I have to print this statement. Okay, printf, this statement should be printed. So I'll just copy it here. I'll copy it here. So this statement will be printed. So if number 1 greater than number 2, then we have to print that number 1 is greater than number 2. Okay. Now I'll close this brace here. I'll close it here. So this if statement is closed now. Now if number 1 is not greater than number 2, that means we have come to this inside. So it is if it is greater, we will print it here. Then if it is not greater, that means number 1 is equal to number 2. So what you have to do is we will have an else statement here. Else, what you have to print, you can print inside the braces, you can print that what you have to print, the numbers are equal. So I have already got this thing. So I will simply include that here. So I will simply print it, this statement here. Else printf percentage %d and percentage %e are equal, and I will close it here. So this statement have to be closed. So I will close it here. Now I'll make this. So it is better to give like the spaces, then you will understand where this opening and where this closing is. That's why I'm giving some tab and all. So now it is clear. Now I have to close one more here because I have to close this if statement. Okay, so I have to close. So this if statement here should be closed. So now this has been closed here. Now what I am checking here, if number 1, I am checking two conditions. Number 1 greater than or equal, number 1 greater than or equal to number 2. And inside that I am going to nest it. So this is a nested if statement. I am first condition I'm checking whether number 1 greater than number 2. So if it is greater, that means number 1 is greater than number 2 will be printed. Else what we have to print, that means if it is not greater, then it is equal to. So I'm printing printf percentage %d and percentage %d are equal. So this number 1 and number 2 are equal to will be printed. Now I have reached here. After that, what I have to do? Now I have to check whether, so in the else part of this if statement, what should be there? You have to print that number 1 is less than number 2. Because if this condition is false, that means number 1 is less than number 2. So you can simply include an else statement here. So you can simply delete all this. There's no need for this checking, because in the else statement you can print that you can just delete all these statements. So I'll just delete all these statements. So in the else part, what you have to print is I'll just delete this. So in the else part of the if statement, so in this else part, what you have to print is else part. If it is not greater and not equal to, it means it is less than. So the number 1 is less than number 2. Now you can close. I have closed it. So this else is closed. Everything is closed now. So you should not close it here. So this is wrong, because I have including a else statement also. So this will be closed. So this will be closed here. So we should not close it here. So I have to close. I have to delete it here. From here I have to change it, because we have an else statement here. So this is the brace. So what, I'll close one here. So if I'll close it, yeah, I'm right. So I'll just a minute, insert. Now I'll close it here. So now this if statement, I have to close it here. Sorry. So I'll close it here. So this if has been closed here, and if this condition is false, then this else will be executed, and inside this, and it will be closed. So you can check whether all the braces are closed. So whenever you compile, whenever you check your program, you have to see whether all this opening and closing braces are there. So if you see this, you can highlight this. So this is for the cells. Now you have to check for this is closed. Now this is also closed. So all the braces are closed. Okay. Now this is for main program. So that is for the main program. So that is also closed. Okay. So this is the program. So we have changed the same program. Now we have included two conditions in this if statement. And inside that we are doing a nested if. So we will be checking first for greater than. So if it is greater, we will print it. Otherwise, we will print that both the numbers are equal. And if it is false, that means it is less. So here it is a less. Now we will compile it and run it. GCC elsef, then there are no errors, /a .out. Now you can enter any numbers. I am entering 5 and 5. So 5 and 5 are equal has been printed. Now you can check for 5 and 7. Now 5 is less than 7. Now you can check for 7 and 5. First number is 7 and second number is 5. So it is 7 is greater than 5 is printed. So everything is working. So this is nested if. Okay. So nested if. So here in nesting we can nest anything inside another if statement. So if statement will be included another if statement. Then it is known as nested if statement. Okay. So this is nested if. So you can include any number of nestings, but it is better to stop with 3 nestings. Okay. So that's all about nesting if. Now I have a few exercises. You have to do all these exercises in the classroom. You have to submit it. So when you submit, you should evaluate some. You have to give some values. So I have given 3 values. Like if you are checking 3 numbers, you have to check for 5 and 5, then 5 and 7, and 7 and 5, and you have to execute using that logic. So each step, what happens to that. So this is the first exercise. So this is actually for the operator or the expressions. So this is a lab program that is there in your syllabus. Evaluate the expression. You have to give some values for A, B, C, D, F. So you have to take those values from the input from the user, and you have to execute this and check for that value. Then another program, so this is not an if statement, this is actually for the operator or the expression program. Now another program, this is for if statement. You have to read three integer values and find the smallest among them. So we have already seen to find the largest. Now you have to find the smallest among them. Then this is another program, read a natural number and check whether the number is prime number or not. Okay, you have to check whether that prime number, whether a number is prime number or not. Okay, you can't do this program right now. You have to use a loop and all. You ignore this third exercise. Need not do this third exercise now. You leave this lead. Then fourth exercise is read a natural number and check whether the number is even or odd. So you leave this third. Okay, you can do this fourth program. You have to check whether a number is even number or odd number. We have already seen this example. Then you have to solve that quadratic equation. So you have to find the roots of a quadratic equation. So you try to include all the complex root, everything you can include, and using this if statement. So already you have written the algorithm for that. You have to convert it into a C program. Then find the largest among three numbers. So we have already seen this program. It is similar to the smallest program, smallest among three numbers. You have to simply change the condition. That's all. Then this is the program to check whether a given year is leap year or not. So for the condition for leap year is not divisible by alone, divisible by 4 alone. So you have to include other conditions also. So the actual condition for the leap year is this one. So every year that is exactly divisible by 4 is a leap year, except, so there is another additional condition. Not all the numbers which are divisible by 4 are leap years, except for years that are divisible by 100. So if it is divisible by 100 and divisible by 4, it may not be a leap year. And for these years which are divisible by 100, we have to check for another condition. But these centurial years are leap years if they are exactly divisible by 400. Then only it will be called a leap year. So it should be divisible by 4 and not divisible by 100 and divisible, or it should be divisible by 400. For example, the years 1700, 1800, 1900, these are all divisible by 4, but they are not leap years because it is not, it is divisible by 100. Uh, but the years 1600, 2000 are all leap years. It is 4 and it is also divisible by 400. So you have to check for all these three conditions. Okay. So this is the actual condition. It should be divisible by 4. That is mod 4 should be equal to 0 and not equal to mod 100, or mod 400 equal to 0. So all the conditions should be checked for this leap year. Then this is another program to check whether a given number is positive or negative or 0. So we have already seen this program in the video. You can check that program. You can write by yourself. Then you can write a C program to check whether a triangle is equilateral, isosceles or scale triangle. So you have to see what is the condition for equilateral. You know the three sides will be equal. Similarly for isosceles and scale triangles, you have to check all those conditions, and so the input from the user will be three sides of a triangle. From that you have to check whether this triangle is equilateral, isosceles or scale. Then there is another program. So this you can use the if ladder. So write a C program to read temperature in centigrade and display a suitable message. So if the temperature entered is less than 0, it is freezing weather. If it is from 0 to 10, it is very cold weather. 10 to 20, it is cold weather. 20 to 30, then it is normal in temperature. 30 to 40, then it is hot. If it is greater than or equal to 40, then it is very hot. So like this, you have to display some messages. Okay. So these are the exercises you can submit. You have to give some values also. Then you have to check whether how that program works. You have to write it in paper and see the logic, and you have to scan it and submit it in the classroom. So thank you.